Hi, welcome back. This video we're going to have a look at Java variables, what they do for you, what you can do with them. And I've got my screen set up in the same way as we had in the last video. We've got a shell window here. Here's the Java folder where I'm keeping my programs. This is the Hello World application that we worked on last time, that we created last time, and I've just got that open so we can compare that with what we're going to do today. So let's just get on with it. First thing, over here I'm going to make a Java source code file. So go new text document. I'm going to call this app01 for application 01. The first application, because we'll probably end up making several, and I'll put the .java file extension on the end. Remember that over here I've got file name extension showing, so there's no hidden .txt stuck on the end of that. So this file, let's put some Java source code in it. We start out with class, and then the name of the class, app01 for our first application, opening curly bracket, closing curly bracket. So that's the same as the Hello World we had last time. We've done this bit and that bit. The main method there, we haven't done that yet. Just sort of in passing, this is actually a valid bit of Java code. If we compile this, so if you remember, we do that with the Java let's just do dir just to see what's in there. Yeah, there's our source code file. If I try and compile that, javac app01.java, are there any errors? Let's have a look. That took a long time. Anyway, there's no errors. So here we've now got a corresponding class file. Can you see that? So this is valid Java code. It won't do anything. If I try and run that in the same way that we did yesterday, if I type Java app01, if I try and run it, it won't run because it hasn't got a main method. You see there, it's the Java error messages are really quite helpful. Hasn't got it's looking for a main method there that looks like public static void main with a args argument there. Hasn't got one of those, and that's why you can't run it. So let's put one of those in. Public static void main upper S. Okay, now we've got a program that hopefully it will compile and we'll be able to run it. Won't do a great deal, but let's just demonstrate that. So I'll save this, and then we'll run it. So what I'm doing here, you probably can't see this on the screen, but I'm kind of lazy and I don't want to keep typing in javac space app01.java. If you press the up arrow, you can cycle through the previous things that I've typed. Do you see? So you can save yourself a bit of typing there. So let's compile this. Now hopefully it will compile a bit quicker than last time. So it did compile, and then let's run it, and it will run. Won't give any errors, won't do anything, because inside the main method we haven't put anything. We've got to put some statements in between the opening curly bracket and the closing curly bracket of the main method. Last time, if you remember, between those two we printed something out to the screen, but we haven't done that yet. So let's put some things in there. Now, I said we were going to talk about variables. Here we go. I'm going to declare a variable to hold a number, and I'll explain what I mean by that, I'm going to say that I'm going to use I to stand for an integer variable. Now a variable is like a box, you can put something in it, and with Java you're allowed to say what kind of thing can go in that box. In this case, our variable called I is able to have integers put in it. In other words, a number that doesn't have a decimal point, so something like 3 or -10, those are integers, but 2.5 isn't because it's got a decimal point. So I've declared an integer there, an integer variable, and when we've done that I'm going to put it equal to, let's say, 3. I don't think I mentioned this, but each line of the code has got a semicolon at the end there. Now that should compile and it should run without errors. Let's try it. Will it compile? Yes, it will. Will it run? Yep, but it won't actually do anything. Okay, so at least there's no errors there. Some languages let you just go ahead and say things. Let's get rid of this. Some languages will just let you go ahead and use a variable called I and put the number 3 in it. As simple as that, without you having to say in advance what kind of thing it is that can be stored in the variable I. Python will let you do that, for example. Let's try it here. Let's save this and try compiling it now. Now we've got an error. Can't find the symbol. It's looking for that symbol I, and because we haven't declared it, the compiler's not happy. So Java, you can't just go ahead and use a variable without first of all saying what type of variable it is, in this case an integer. So I'm going to declare a couple of variables. Let's declare another one, let's say J, and let's put J equal to, say, 4. That's all good so far. That will still compile. Let's just prove that. There we go, that compiles. It won't do anything yet. Just to demonstrate that this J can only hold an integer, if we were to try putting, say, 4.5 in it, now 4.5 is not an integer, it's got a decimal point, a decimal part, and if we tried compiling that, let's see what the compiler says. It's going to complain. In fact, it will refuse to compile it. Now it's quite a helpful error message here. Incompatible types. It's trying to convert from a double to an int. Now a double is a Java data type that we'll look at in a moment that can hold a number with a decimal point, and it doesn't like assigning the value 4.5 to the variable J, because J is an integer, but 4.5's got a decimal part. So we could fix that by, instead of using an integer data type, using a double. Now a double data type, a double variable, is one that is able to hold a number that's got a decimal part. So this now should compile without complaint. There we go, it's compiled. So far everything's good. Now what we can do now is we could, let's declare another variable, another double this time. Let's call it K, and we'll do a little bit of arithmetic. let's say that k is equal to I plus j. Now I used a double for this variable k, and I did that because I is an integer, so I is going to be 3, j is 4.5, so it's a double, it's got a decimal point, and if I add the two together, 4.5 plus 3, 7.5, that's not an integer. 7.5 is an integer, so that variable k, we had to say that that's a double as well. You can experiment with this. If you tried putting that as an integer, you'll find you'll get an error when you try and compile it. So this should compile, and then what we can do is print out the value of k to prove that everything's worked. So if you think back to Hello World, the way we printed things was we went system out print line, and then inside the brackets we had whatever it was we wanted to print. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it down there, but instead of Hello World, I'm going to print k. Now this print line, it's able to print a bit of text. That Hello World inside quotes, that's a string. It's a bit of writing with a quote either end. Print line knows how to deal with that. It also knows how to deal with numbers. It's also able to print a number like that. So if we save this, compile it like that, and then run it, can you see here it's printed out 7.5, which is what we expected. One last thing, I'm going to print out something a little more complicated than 7.5. I'm going to say lower I plus j equals and plus k. Now what this is going to do, let's run it, and then I'm just briefly going to discuss what's happening here. So we'll run it, sorry, compile it first, then run it. So we've got printed out on the screen, we've got I plus j equals 7.5, so it's kind of a bit easy to read. Over here, this plus symbol, the plus operator, what it's done first time we used it to add two numbers together. I was a number, it was an integer, wasn't it? And j was also a number, a double with a number with a decimal part. And when you use the plus symbol with a number either side, it just adds the two numbers. It sort of does what you'd expect. Here though, that's a bit of text and that's a number, and we're again using the plus operator to somehow produce a message, I plus j is equal to 7.5. Well, plus is a bit unusual in this respect in that it can either add numbers, or if you use it in a context like this, it will change that into 7.5 and add it to it will change it to a bit of text that says 7.5, and it'll put the two strings together, so you'll get I plus j equals, and then that will be the 7.5. So that'll do for now, I think. So I'll save that and we're done.